Ready? I'd like to call this evening's King's Board of Education work session and regular board meeting to order, please. Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll, sir?
Yes, Ms. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Groff.
Here.
Mr. Skrull.
Here.
Ms. Cowan.
Here.
Mr. Beltran.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Groff.
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes.
Ms. Cowan.
Yes.
Mr. Beltran.
Yes. Next on the agenda is reports and presentations. I see we have the champs here. It's very exciting.
It is on. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beltran and Board of Education and family, friends, parents, and this award-winning national champion dance team with us tonight. We're very excited tonight to recognize some amazing accomplishments by some super talented young ladies. Over the past few weeks, the King's Dance Team has been recognized at the local, state, and national level for exceptional performances. These young ladies have worked extremely hard this year, come together as a team, and made their mark wherever they performed. A few weekends ago, the King's High School Dance Team excelled in the Ohio State Dance Championships and finished as state runner-up in hip hop, game day, and team pom. A tremendous accomplishment to place in all three events. These performances just set the stage for them to perform at the National Dance Championships in Orlando, Florida, 2 weekends ago. Competing against teams all throughout the country, this team finished first, claiming a national championship in the medium varsity game day category. This team also received recognition for innovative choreography. So some tremendous accomplishments. We have a quick video that will show their national champion performance and ensuing celebration during the award ceremony. So yes, they didn't know we were doing this, so.
Let's just walk a mile, something you can't do. Hey, big talks to the town. In second place with a 92.92. Also receiving technical excellence. Let's go.
Let's go.
Don't forget, after our North Varsity game results, we can have our Varsity category working day, as well as our voting labor.
Awesome.
That's awesome. The Kings Local School District is extremely proud of our national champion dance team. There's not too many teams in this country that ever get to say they are national champions, and we are so proud of you and what you've accomplished. I want to thank Athletic Director Eric Taylor, who's here this evening. Also, our coaches, Courtney Dang and Maya Holden. Let's give them a round of applause. So I'm going to introduce all of our dancers, and then what you will do is we'll have you come up. We'd love for you to get a picture with the Board of Education, obviously carrying the biggest trophy I've ever seen. I don't know, it might take a few of you to carry it, but we'd love for you. We'll introduce you and you can come up, we'll get a picture with the board. And that before we do that, I just want to thank, obviously, we know that our athletes are, certainly talented and amazing students, but parents, we appreciate your continued support for all the work that you do to get them to and from support. And I'm sure you had an amazing time traveling to Orlando as well, but we appreciate you. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share your children with us on a daily basis. So we're really appreciative of that. So here we go. The important folks in the room, Meredith Bodley, Ella Hancock, Jaden Schroeder, Paige Doofman, Ellie Hurd, Katie Dykheisen, Elizabeth Johnson, Bree Corella, Alexandra Spoker, Caitlin McCorkle, Mackenzie Stalker, Camden Dawkins, Anya Metzger, Taylor Shaw, Maria Tormos, Caroline Spoker, and Jordan Staubitz. Thank you all. Congratulations to every one of you. School, do you want to take? So we will continue on with our meeting. Feel free to stay. If you would like to get on with your evening, you are more than welcome to go right now if you would like. So you have our permission, but thank you all.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
It's awesome.
You know, when I see kids doing such amazing things, they get to come to our board meeting, it just makes my heart happy.
I know. Great kids.
Proceed with the meeting. You're right. So next, under reports and presentations, we had a critical skills. Mr. Sears.
Yes, this will be my section. Mrs. Gould, if you could pull up the attached presentation. So I'll kind of walk through this. So over the course of the last few weeks and months, we've been engaging in some discussion and feedback around where we're going as a school district, and looking at the academic approaches that we have, and looking at what the future vision of learning is for Kings. We've had numerous conversations with staff, with students in some small group community conversations around what's the future of learning look like in Kings. So as we're continuing down this journey to define what the educational experience is for our students, we engaged our families and our community into a critical skills exchange, thought exchange it was earlier in February. And over the course of those few weeks, we engaged our community and we asked one question. And it was, as we work to put our King Strong culture blueprint into action, what are the critical skills and experience our students need to prepare them for success and learning in life? So we kind of lobbed this question out to our community, and we wanted to hear from them on what are those critical skills that give our students that they need to develop and define and demonstrate in order for them to have a highly competitive advantage to their peers when they leave our school district. And so we wanted to know the answer to that question. What does that look like? And so we engaged our community into that. We gave them a period of time. And over the course of that, we had 1,038 participants into our thought exchange within our community. If I had to guess, that probably represents over 50% of our students, because many of those participants have multiple students in our district. It may be even more than that, but it's just a ballpark. There were 872 original thoughts that were created, and there were 26,309 ratings of those 872 thoughts. So I would say a very good sample size for our district. We had a number of community members participate. We had former students participate. We had a few current students participate, by and large part, but it was our current families of King students that were the largest participant group within there. So with that, those original thoughts, and I'll talk about some of those thoughts in just a few minutes, but in those thoughts, there is a word cloud that is generated as a result when it factors in all the thoughts. So the word cloud are the most common used words that are in all 872 thoughts. So with that, you can see the larger the word, the more often and more frequent that it was used. The smaller the word, the less frequent it was used. All of these, I would say with 872 thoughts, any word that's on here had quite a few hits on it. The larger ones just had more, but they're just because it's a small word here, it's not insignificant due to the level of participation that we had in this. But you can see items such as critical, solving, information, problem, communication, financial, success, budgeting, management, world. You could just see some of those words that were kind of the key takeaways. So when we look at these, the way the exchange works is it naturally ranks the highest rated thoughts. So in this presentation, the 3 highest rated thoughts were identified here as problem solving with diverse groups of people, emphasis on academic and creative achievement, as much emphasis on academic and creative achievement as there is on sports, and then critical thinking. So of the 872, and you can see within this presentation, the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 ranked skill development. So we see problem solving, academic, creative achievement, critical thinking, diverse were words that were key from those key thoughts. From there, some themes emerged. So based on star score and overall rating, the following themes emerged from that. So number 1, the highest rated theme was communication skills, critical thinking, problem solving, different people, financial, management, finance, mental health, college, different, and diversity. So a couple things to point out here is, so these are themes based on star score. So that based on the overall rating, the highest rated themes, highest rated thoughts generate themes. the themes that I identify here are ones that we can leverage to use and move forward. So a couple things to point out. So there are 2 themes identified here around financial and management finance. Both of those are important to say that our community, and it was very clear, and you could see in the word cloud, there is an expectation of our community that they want our students to walk away with having some financial literacy skills, budgeting, finance management, investments, et cetera. So it spoke loud and clear to the expectations of our community on what they want our students to walk away with by the time they graduate. They need to have an understanding of basic finance and budgeting and how to balancing and credit and all that type of stuff. So what's interesting about that, and I know Mr. Freeman recently talked to the board about this, is that starting with the freshmen for the fall of 22, next year's freshmen, by the time they graduate Kings High School, they will have to participate in a 0.5 credit semester credit course on financial literacy. So we have been proactive in that planning. We've been proactive on the requirements from the state have changed. We've had discussions with our high school staff. Mr. Freeman and Mrs. Martin have done work around that with our high school staff, that we are implementing a 0.5 standalone semester credit required course for all of our current freshmen by the time they graduate after 4 years. Now, the key for that is that's the students will not take that course until their junior or senior year. Now, some rationale behind that is freshmen right now, they're 14 or 15 taking a personal finance or financial literacy course may not make a lot of sense, because I have daughters who have been in this. And I'll use my own daughter, my own freshman daughter, when she was a freshman, the only money she cared about was mine, right? And she didn't care about, and she had no concept of anyone else's or her own or how to do that. Well, now that she's 17, she's working, she has a job, she has a credit card, bank card, she has to put gas in her car. She needs to understand these things. So for us, we made the requirement for junior and senior year. So when it becomes most important to our kids, plus that's when the time they're going to be maybe leaving to go and enter the workforce or whatever they decide to do. So we've been proactive with that, which all that did is, by seeing this here, it validated the approach that we are using at Kings. And so it was it felt good for us to say, yeah, great. I'm glad our community said that, because that's what we were already thinking. So that's something that we feel good about moving forward. And we'll certainly be communicating that more and more to our community beyond just this conversation, because I think it is important for other folks to know, and our community in large to know, that yes, by the time your children graduate, they will have some exposure to these concepts in finance. I'll point out as well, there are 3 themes that on this around different people, different, and diversity. And so that spoke large to as the top themes in our community. There were 3 different subsets around some level of working with diverse groups of people or different people or those things. So we'll talk about that in a second. So Mrs. Gould, if you could go to the next one. And I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I just want to highlight what this will do, and then I'll talk about next steps. So for each thought, the top thoughts around communication skills. So for example, this was a thought that a community member placed in here: communication skills in speaking and writing. Children need to learn how to be effective communicators to learn to influence and share knowledge. It was the highest rated communication thought. Communication skills from a young age, children need to be taught to listen with the intent of understanding first, then responding with thought. So these are skills and strategies that community members and parents are identifying, and then oral and written. So that was communication skills. Mrs. Gould, if you go to the next one, critical. So this theme around critical thinking. Critical thinking, critical thinking, critical thinking. Beyond memorizing facts for tests, students should be able to develop and articulate their own point of view. So these are high-rated thoughts that when we look at skills on, are we developing and giving our kids exposure, giving our kids the opportunity to dive into material, to critically think, to articulate points of view. Problem solving, self-sufficiency, problem solving, teamwork. That one had 4 in there. Financial literacy as well. critical thinking, problem solving, real world situations. So you can see the essence of this. Go to the different people was a theme, treating others with respect, learning that others matter. The world is a place where we're all different, need to respect those differences, taught from the youngest ages. Being able to listen to others and find threads of commonality and respect, even when there's a difference of opinion. Social skills, team building. Children need to be able to work together with many people of different cultures and backgrounds. So these are skills and strategies that are being identified. And then I went through some of the financial things, both in the next two, and then mental health. So this was an interesting theme that generated. Some of it was not particularly tied to the exact question we asked, but I think it's worth noting that it says, I feel like the staff is stretched thin with additional expectations on top of an already demanding job, having a nurturing environment to support a level of learning, and then self-advocacy. So some skills around that mental health piece. The college one, a little bit about college was not tied entirely to college around, it's more of what's exposing our students to other options or opportunities beyond just college. So it says add a trade fair to the high school in addition to the college fair, because we're only promoting college, show students there are other pathways to success. So these are, again, the college one wasn't just about, there was plenty around preparing for college, but it wasn't just about that. It was about what are alternatives to college, and then how do we expose our students to that. And then another one very similar to different resilient problem solvers. And so what are we doing with this, right? So what's the next step? And then I'll stop and let the board ask any questions that you might have. So our plan right now is we want to be able to take these large skills, a large number of these thoughts, and really drill them down into specific skills. So there's nice themes that have originated and developed, but we want to be able to go through some protocols to drill down to some real specificity on what this means. What does it mean to be critical thinker, and how does that generate, and what does that look like in our classrooms? So we're going to be engaging our administrative team tomorrow in a protocol to do that. We've done a protocol with our central office team already. We'll do it with our administrators, and we'll do some with teachers and possibly students. And with our community next Wednesday, or the March 22nd, I think it's Tuesday, at 7 o'clock at Columbia. We are inviting any of our parents or community members to analyze the feedback from the thought exchange that we will take through a protocol to generate very specific skills and go through that. So we'll use the thoughts that our community, and we'll go through a protocol to do that. So we invite people to be a part of that. Our intended outcome here is that we would be able to generate some very specific transdisciplinary skills that our students will become experts in, master, and demonstrate throughout their King's experience. This puts a little bit of the why behind we do the work. Our culture blueprint and some of our other strategies are the how we're going to do it. But this is really the why. We're about our students. We're about engaging them and growing them academically, personally. And this puts some context into why we want to do the work. And so I think it's exciting. The feedback was tremendous. We were very happy with the number of folks that participated, and the feedback that came through was generated from what our community and what our parents expect. So I'm looking forward to continued work. I will continue to update the board and the community as we go. Certainly the board, you are welcome to attend next Tuesday if you are available and have time in your busy calendar to participate in the protocol that we'll be doing with our community. So I'll stop there, take any questions, thoughts, comments. The link to the RSVP. We are asking for an RSVP so we can just plan. So the protocol requires some pre-organization for us to be able to do this well. And so we are asking for an RSVP just so we can have a good idea on numbers, so we can, again, we want to be able to organize it. Probably take a little over an hour to do total, and then it'll give us some good outcomes.
Mr. Sears, I appreciate all the work you're putting into this. I did have some feedback from the community. So I was wondering if this meeting would in any way be available online, because I've gotten some feedback that's a particularly busy time for some of the schedules with spring sports and such. Would it be available online for people to view and maybe give you any kind of feedback, or would you have to attend to get the
So
program?
it's a really good question. So the specific protocol we're going to use requires its engagement. So it's not really a presentation. It's more of groups of folks working together, generating different things. So there's really value in personal. But one of the things that we may consider, again, this is a kind of we're taking the temperature. It's a test run. If we feel like it goes well and we get feedback and this is something that people feel valuable, we could offer other opportunities. So it wouldn't be hard to duplicate. I don't, viewing it and videoing it, I would say it's not a presentation style. There's a lot of small group conversation I think would really be hard to capture through video connection. So, but we have talked about is if this is something that people are interested in, we could offer other opportunities. We'll look at that.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I've heard great feedback too. So thank you very much for putting this out there. I know the community really likes to participate. So thanks.
Next on the agenda is public participation. The Kings Local Board of Education encourages all parents, staff members, and community members to attend meetings and encourages visitors to participate in their meetings. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to state his or her reason for addressing the board. We ask that speakers avoid personal attacks on individuals during their public address to the board. If an individual has an issue with an employee, we ask that you request a private meeting with the superintendent or that employee's direct supervisor. Please keep in mind that Board of Education meetings are held so that the board can conduct their business in public. The board president is the spokesman for the board and may need to consult with other board members in order to respond to the public. If a question from the public can be answered immediately, it may be. However, if time is needed to study the issue, the board may choose to make a statement at a later date. And our first speaker this evening is Colleen Sheep.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Last month, my husband expressed some concerns over dropping enrollment numbers. That was disputed outside of the public participation section of the meeting. Maybe not the most appropriate way to handle that, but Janelle Groff refuted the enrollment information he presented. And some back and forth would have been good if we had done that during public participation. Maybe we could have gotten that cleared up. But Scott followed up with Mrs. Groff via an email and asked, I think 3 times, for the resources she used when making a claim that the enrollment was growing. We are pleasantly surprised, thank you, that she interacted. So we want to acknowledge that improvement in the board and hope that it continues. However, Scott was unable to get clarity on Mrs. Groff's claims from last month, and Mrs. Groff refused to provide the resources she was using, forcing Scott to make some records requests. They have not been fulfilled yet. And we all know that people get put on the naughty list for making the records requests. I could go point by point and recite a lot of numbers and dates about the enrollment, but that's not going to be entirely helpful right now. At the end of the day, the question is, are we growing or not? The answer is clearly no, we are not. As of February 25th, according to our website, we had 4,601 students. In May of 2020, nearly 2 years ago, we had 4,628 students. I'm not a math whiz, but that's a loss of about 30 students. This doesn't seem like much, but let's consider the projections that are still advertised on our website. In 2019, and again in 2020, every single person on this board either voted in favor of or promoted a $90 million bond, personally or both, publicly, The bond was promoted heavily on anticipated growth of enrollment. The enrollment projections that were used and paid heftily for were made by Decision Insight using numbers provided by King's. According to that projection, using their conservative projection, we should be at 4,878 students. We are nearly 200 students shy from that. Of course, we're 623 students shy of the Decision Insight's moderate projections that were published in the Enquirer after an interview with our PR person. Why does this matter? It matters because we need to know why we are losing students. I'm concerned about it. I hope you are too. I'm concerned that our COVID response and masking has, is that me?
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Karen Burton.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that you are reaching out to the community as you move forward with the skills that we want for the students that we are paid to educate. And of course, there are parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, community members and neighbors who really want input. And I appreciate that. And that the meeting is at 7 o'clock when parents can actually attend. I do know several parents that wanted to attend this meeting tonight. They're working parents. They haven't seen their children all day. And it's very difficult to get to a meeting at 5:30 or 6. So I do appreciate that. As a community member and a taxpayer in the district, I did put an opens records request in twice to receive a copy of the emails that are sent to all parents. And I was told twice that that cannot possibly be done. It's much too difficult. Last summer, I figured it was political. I was running for the board. I dropped it. I'm not running for the board. I'm wanting to do the same thing that you're wanting to do. I want to help make King's the first and the best choice for parents. Hopefully, more parents will have a choice of where to educate their children. And as a taxpayer and a homeowner in this district, I'd like for King's to be the #1 choice. That's my passion. That's my aim. I'm not here to work against you. I prefer to work with you. All I asked for, so I asked again for the emails that go to all parents. And what I was told is it's much too difficult to figure out what I would want. Like all emails to all parents, just add an email address. So it does seem like for the next Tuesday meeting, you are going to include the community, and that's helpful. But there's other times when we ask for things. I was told to make a records request. Just make a weekly, if you want them all, make a weekly records request. So all of a sudden we're being told to make a lot of records requests. When last summer we were hit pretty hard by the president of KEA and a sitting board member who said we were putting an unreasonable burden on the staff by making record requests. And we don't want to do that. We just want the information that you already have. So very disappointed with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda are items presented by the treasurer. Mr. Morrow, this is your debut, sir.
Well, first of all, before we get into the business items, I want to thank all the King's staff and board for their warm welcome. And it's very apparent that everybody here really cares a lot about this community and these kids. And that's exactly why I accepted the position here. So it's been a very good first couple days. I also wanted to commend the former treasurer, Carrie, and also the staff, Jane, Jill, Tim, and Lori, for receiving the Auditor State Award again for their financial statements last year. That just shows their excellence and their care. And honestly, it's more than just them. It's the entire staff that deals anything with money, which casts a broad net. So thank you to everybody, and congratulations. It is a big deal. So first up in business is the minutes. I asked the board to approve the minutes from the 2/15, regular and special meetings. Item 2 is financial statements, and if you could please pull up the last attachment and scroll down to page 3. So page 3 is a snapshot of our most recent cash flows versus where we thought we would be when the forecast was done in November. And you can see on the far right, top corner, we're 700,000 better than we expected. That's the good news. Bad news is we're still looking at a loss of $2 million for the year. So the good and the bad. Over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to work with the Board of Education to figure out what exactly they need and the community needs educated, because this is complex stuff. As I dig in and learn more, I want to also educate the board and everybody else as well. So we're planning a retreat coming up, and I hope to have a conversation along that, and look forward to that. Item 3 is the tax rate resolution. Back in January, a tax budget was presented to the Board of Education that was approved. Basically, we're trying to maintain our property tax revenues. So we present this is a need to the district, to the Budget Commission of Warren County, and they agreed that yes, we do in fact need our property tax revenues to continue. Good news though, they're not projecting any rate increases this year over last year, so we're flat. And the year before that, property tax rates for individuals actually went down. So that's good news for a couple years. And I asked the board to approve the rates as presented by me here, given to us from the Warren County Budget Commission. And kind of while I'm moving along here, we'll get to number 5 before the approval. Number 5 is the public records log. I wanted to post that out there. Everything has been fulfilled year to date, except for one request, which was left on my desk, and it's high on my to-do list to fulfill as soon as possible. But so we'll get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. And with that, could I have a motion to approve the treasurer items for this evening?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beltram.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the items from the superintendent, Mr. Sears.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to turn this portion over to Mr. Lucky. He is going to go through some construction changes that are happening out in front of this building that we will need the board to approve. Mr. Lucky?
If you've driven back behind KEC over the last 4 months or so, you've seen them crawling out of the river, basically. Feels like, and they finally have made it up to KEC. What the Deerfield Township has asked us to do is to approve some right-of-way changes right out here at College Avenue, so that we're able to align our KME bus exit with the College Street for safety. Next month, I'll come back. There's another easement or right-of-way change that they'd like back on Cherry Street, back on the corner, back behind the softball field behind KEC. That's not as big of a deal of what's going on out here. But during that time next month, I'll bring to you some overview of a lot of the benefits that are going to happen with this construction project and the mess that we're going to deal with. There is a light at the end of the tunnel at the end of this of benefits that I'll share then for KME, for KEC, and really for the entire hamlet here of the improvements that are being done. I'll leave any questions about the right of way that's going to take place right out here at the bus exit.
When is that supposed to start, Mr. Lucky?
Which part?
The
They're,
actual construction.
they have started down back towards the river, November-ish.
Right.
and they've
I'm
started to
talking
creep
out
here
front, right
over
out
the
here.
summer. They're trying to time that up with our school calendar.
Okay.
They've assured me, and they do a great job, because this area is go time twice a day for buses, for parents, for everybody. So we'll work together to make that transition as wonderful as it can be.
Besides aligning College Street out here, is it going to be widened a little bit to help both sides meet up?
Yes. So, and I'll get into greater detail next month, but the benefits that we're going to see. So we can start all the way back at the bridge. New bridge will go in, we'll come up the hill. You'll actually be able to get a bus down there at that time. Closer down by the mansion, you'll see a roundabout area to take that 90-degree turn out so that you can get larger vehicle traffic through there. Major improvements for us here will be left-hand turn lane to get into KME, right-hand cool-down lane to get into KME for parents, which will take away a lot of that congestion at pickup and drop-off time. So this will all get widened out here. That'll be a huge help from a safety perspective for our families going in and going out of the building. And that will go not quite all the way to the post office, but that widening project will go down several hundred feet past KME from there. So with that, our water meter is out. Can't see it. It's in the little thicket of trees down the left field line of that baseball field across the street. That will press out. We'll move the water meter back. All that will be summer project stuff. That swath of trees that's currently there may no longer be there.
Is
Because of
that
that
where
widening.
the pit that we so fondly call?
Yes, that is the pit.
Okay.
Yes. It'll be exciting. It'll be muddy. It'll be a mess. It'll be fun to get through it. But I think in the end, it'll be a huge benefit for us. And then obviously all the residents here in the hamlet to improve connectivity, sidewalks, curb, drainage, all those things that they've been dealing with.
Any other questions? All right, well, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda are approval items for the Assistant Superintendent concerning HR and business. Mr. Spinner?
Good evening, Kings Board of Education, President Belfrom. 2 items on my agenda this evening. First, our personnel items, which include staff resignations, new employees, staff miscellaneous items, supplementals and stipends, which mainly concern finalizing some of our spring supplementals, and temporary employment, which is dominated by our summer child care aides for our summer camp that is quickly approaching now that we're in the 4th quarter and spring has sprung. So we're excited to bring back our summer kids.
Question for you.
Yes.
How are we staffed now? You know, we had that big push for even food service and bus drivers. How is staffing going right now?
Continue to make a push. We still have opportunities in food service. We still have opportunities for bus drivers. We definitely still have opportunities for paraprofessionals. So those, everyone listening out on YouTube or the radio airwaves, we definitely are looking for continued growing employee pool.
Okay, good to know.
Our substitute pool has grown. Our percentages, our fill rates for our daily teacher substitutes has grown. We're consistently hitting the 70 to 80% mark, if not higher, on many of our school days. So we are happy to see an influx of substitute teachers.
Thank you.
Doesn't mean we don't want more.
Sure.
We'll still take more substitutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Great question.
I had a question
Sure.
about the supplementals and stipends. I noticed that on the girls lacrosse, that Mackenzie Canavy was added, but there is another coach working with Mackenzie Canavy. Will she be added at another time?
Yes, my guess is that's either they were approved in February, or she will be added at a later date. Maybe the paperwork hasn't been in, or all of the paperwork to get her on the board agenda, but I'll have to
Okay.
look into that.
Okay, because she wasn't on February. That's why I was expecting to see her here, and I see Mackenzie, but I don't see Sophia. So,
Mrs. Cowan, I'll have to look into that additional coach in girls lacrosse.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr.
I was
Spinner, I'm
gonna ask for additional questions, but I don't want to steal your thunder.
No,
So
you're
thank you,
good.
President Belfram.
You're good.
Item number 2 has to do with some staffing proposals and recommendations for the 22-23 school year. Many of these are based on enrollment numbers, and I'll get into those here in a second. If you take a look at that sheet, and thank you, Mrs. Gould, for pulling it up. This is our current, that top section of 6 schools, our elementaries, our middle schools, and our high school. Those are our current school counselor and student ratio numbers in the Kings Local School District. And you may notice our K-4 buildings at JF Burns each have a counselor. JF Burns student enrollment outpaces our other 2 elementary buildings by over 200 students, but yet they also just have 1 counselor like the other 2 K-4 buildings. And then Columbia Intermediate, relatively the same size as Kings Junior High School, also only has 1 counselor compared to Kings Junior High's ratio. We are proposing adding a full-time counselor split between both JF Burns and Columbia Intermediate to more consistently address the school counseling needs that each of those buildings has. This would be for the 22-23 school year. I wanted to bring that before the board before posting that. We are entering hiring season. And so I've already attended 1 job fair, 1 education job fair at University of Dayton. I have 2 more, both at Miami University and Xavier University. And as graduates begin to leave our colleges and universities, who begin looking for jobs, we'd like to get ahead of those potential counselor candidate pools. Many times also you have counselors that do bring teaching experience with them or counseling experience as well. So we'll do everything we can to find the best possible fit for those 2 school buildings.
I know in the 5-year forecast, we sometimes have 3 positions that are in there just in case. So would the counselors fall under those that are already possible?
Yes, it would. In fact, all of the staffing proposals I have tonight will fall under that. Mrs. Phillips, you're 100% correct. Great point. And Mr. Morrow, you'll have to double check me, and maybe you haven't had a chance to dive into the 5-year too much, but I think it may have even moved up to 5, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll spend all 5 of those. We'll definitely meet the needs that we have.
It was $300,000 in the certified salaries. So that's roughly 5 positions.
Okay, well, that's good.
3 to 5. So yeah, thank you. Great point. Second 2 positions are intervention specialist positions, part-time at our elementary building, JF Burns, and a full-time downstairs at our preschool. This also has to do with numbers. In our elementary buildings, K through 6.
K through 8.
K through 8, oh, I was so close. Caseloads can be 16. 9 through 12, they can balloon up to 24. The preschool caseloads can be 8.
Correct. Yes.
Classroom size of
Yes,
8.
classroom size of 8.
So at JF Burns, for instance, a maximum caseload being 16 per special ed intervention specialist, we've already identified more kindergartners coming into JF Burns than identified students in 4th grade that would be going out. So an additional 0.5 will allow us the ability to manage the caseload based on the numbers we've already identified. So we're looking part of that $300,000 that Mr. Morrow mentioned. We're looking at adding a part-time intervention specialist to JF Burns, and then a full-time for many of the same reasons down at the preschool. Preschool numbers grow each school year, and we accept students as they turn 3 years old and qualify for special education services through May. Currently, we are outpacing the number of spots we have as preschool intervention specialist caseloads can only have the maximum of 8 students. An additional teacher is necessary for us to continue to keep pace with our intervention numbers downstairs.
Do we have space for this classroom?
Well, Peggy, we laugh all the time, right? That someday these are going to be preschool rooms, right? We do have space. We're moving a couple childcare rooms around. We're moving speech around. So we're just becoming a little more creative every year because our numbers do really continue to grow. And we know the list from a couple of different places around who turns 3, who's already qualified. So we know next year where we're going to be, and we need at least one more room.
And just remind me, as far as I know, when children are identified, we serve them.
The moment they turn 3.
Okay, the moment they turn.
So
3.
that's why we have enrollment all year, right? We'll have new 3-year-olds in November, December, January. We have quite a few evals right now up through May. So it goes until May and you have to enroll them, or at some point you have to offer them itinerant services. But that's if you're completely full, and that really needs to be the very last month. So we really hold on those services until we have all of our classrooms full. It's a big business downstairs. Yep, it's grown every year.
Thank you very much. We'll continue to look for the best possible fit for our district to fill these roles. We appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Spinner. And with that, I'd like a motion to approve Mr. Spinner's items for this evening.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow,
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Beltran.
yes. And next on the agenda are approval items from the Assistant Superintendent concerning our educational programs. Mrs. Martin.
Good evening, everyone. So Matt and I are here to talk about the 2 books we've brought before you, Hamilton and Kindred. We're here to answer any questions you have. We've probably gone into depth already about them a couple times, but just wanted to make sure if you had any questions, we could talk to them. That means we were thorough.
Yes.
Yes.
I read the Kindred. I thought it was good.
Me too. Yep. Yeah.
And the
Yeah, I-
Hamilton is exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
The book, yeah.
they're gonna love it.
Yes.
I agree with Mr. Belfram. I started the book, thought I'll just read a few pages, and before I knew it, a couple hours had passed and I was on the last chapter. So that was a good one. I think it'll work really well with the one we approved earlier.
And I'll just say that I think this is an important note because it speaks to the transparency that we're trying to utilize when we're looking at book approvals, and that it goes through a multi-step process involving our teaching and learning council, board work sessions, the committee that actually reads the book. There's multiple discussion points and community input, as well as, you know, a few touch points with the Board of Education too. So speaks a little bit about, you're seeing that process continue on, this is how we'll operate on all of our required textbook adoptions and in materials. So.
Further questions, comments? And with that, may I also have a motion to approve Mrs. Martin and Mr. Freeman's item for this evening?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow,
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Beltran.
yes. Next up are items presented by the board. Leave the floor to my colleagues. I will restate for those that may not have heard earlier during our presentation for our national championship winning dance team that today is Mrs. Phillips' 25th birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm so nice and young. I would like to just share some things that I saw either on Twitter or through our night news as
Absolutely.
far as what's happening in classrooms in and around the building. And first I have King's Board of Education President Stacy Beltram was awarded the Ohio School Board Training Award at the Southwest Ohio School Board. And it was very nice at a few of your fellow board members were able to go and support you. So thank you very much for everyone that said it was okay to reschedule our board meeting. The culminating Black History Month at Kings Mills Elementary School had the teachers celebrating Black lives through reading lots of different books in the classroom. And then as the culminating activity, decorating their door for the favorite one, Mr. Sears, and most of the board enjoyed judging and seeing all of the beautifully decorated doors. Ohio Lieutenant Governor John Husted visited Kings High School employability classes. It was a short visit, but he gave the students great advice for their future. He told a very inspiring story and related what you do in life is like climbing a mountain, because there's always another hill to go up, and that it takes true grit to follow through and do your very best. And so I think the employability class really enjoyed that presentation. At Columbia Intermediate School, Team Epic students helped each other when they did a turn and talk. The discussions are centered around high interest articles, and it's just another example of some of the comments from parents on wanting to make sure that students could discuss and talk with each other and be able to think critically. So kudos to the classrooms that were working on that. How many of you can practice a prediction? It can be really kind of difficult. Team Unite at Columbia Intermediate School did just that with bubble wrap. The students had to make a prediction about their popping ability. So the learning can be fun, and it was a great way to end the week. Congratulations to Kings Junior High School Science Olympiad team and science teacher Ms. Strong. The students participated in Science Olympiad tournament at Xavier University on Saturday, March the 5th, and every team member won at least one medal. And the Kings High School mock trial, they started a journey by competing at districts where over 300 teams competed on multiple days. Of that number, 99 teams were advanced to regionals, and Kings High School was one of those. After successful regional appearance, the Kings High School mock team was one of 31 teams advancing to the state competition. Although they weren't successful in winning their trial, the high school teacher, Ms. King, said that she was so proud of their hard work and dedication and making it so far this year. So those are the things that were really important and came to mind this month.
Thank you for that, Ms. Phillips. I think it's important to highlight that stuff. The first thing you could have left out, but it's important to highlight.
Well, Mr.
all of
Beltram, you were such a good role model to all of us to continually
wow.
learn.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. And with that, were there any other items to be presented by the board? And next, we had a legislative update. Did we have a legislative update?
So last month I mentioned House Bill 51 and Senate Bill 181, both going to Governor DeWine for his approval. Those have both been signed into law since we last met. Just a quick recap, House Bill 51 allows a public body, including a Board of Education, to temporarily meet remotely until June 30th of this year. It also revises the process for adjusting property values due to instances that result in injury or destruction of the property, and includes federal tax law conformity provisions. Then also, just as a follow-up, Senate Bill 181 establishes restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing or participating in interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. And there are a couple of new items that Governor DeWine also signed into law. First is Senate Bill 9. This requires state agencies, which includes the Ohio Department of Education, to reduce regulatory restrictions by 30% by the end of the year 2025. This also includes an appropriation of $9 million to assist local board of elections with administering the May 3rd primary elections. Then Governor DeWine also signed into law Senate Bill 11. This makes changes to paid leave for Juneteenth. It requires school districts to grant regular non-teaching school employees who are employed on an 11 to 12-month basis paid leave, and it removes the requirement that school districts grant paid leave to non-teaching school employees who are employed on a 9 to 10-month basis. And additionally, this bill modifies the procedures for uniformed services and oversees absentee voting in the 2022 primary election. And in addition, the State Board of Education's Performance and Impact Committee approved the state report card administrative rules, which now goes before the entire state board at its meeting this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Skrull. Next on the agenda is executive session. The King's Board of Education enters into executive session for the following purposes: to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or for the investigation of charges or complaints against the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual. May I have a motion for us to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfron.
Yes.
Conference or two. Take too long.
Oh, we are now entering out of executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I will make that motion.
Second the motion?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes.